who's online, I'm going to ask you to self-mute. Oh, there's Anindita. I'm going to ask you to self-mute, please, for now, until you have some questions for Anindita. So we've got two guest speakers today. One would be Anu, and one would be Isak. And so we'll set it up very similarly, where Anu or Isak will try and get them to be presenters so that you can at least see them, perhaps. And I'll let Anu. So the reason I brought Anu on to speak to you is because I worked with her, maybe, was it 3 years ago, Anu? Yeah, 3 years ago, and she had a very classic situation as an intern, but it was a great story, and I wanted her to tell her story and share some of the wisdom that she gained from that experience, so that maybe there's some nuggets that you can take away from that experience as well. So I'm going to hand it over to Anu at this point, and we'll figure it out as we go along. And I apologize for this mix-up. It's all good. Okay.
Okay, well, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be here today. I guess we had some technical challenges, but I'm glad I was able to figure it out. So hello, everyone. I can't see everyone, but hello. Yeah, as Karen said, that I joined the MTEI program in 2016 fall, and like many of you, I was very interested in choosing the internship option. But like a lot of you are facing the challenges right now, that it's very difficult for an international student to come finish the course and look for internship at the same time. So because you're doing your coursework, your assignments, and then you're in a totally new country, you don't know anybody, you don't know the system, how people get recruited here. So that was a very big learning lesson for me and all my fellow other friends in the MTEI cohort. So I think Karen and team were absolutely amazingly helpful, because they gave us the crux of what we needed to do to find the employers, to connect with them, what are the tools, how you would present yourself. You know, that's very different, because I have worked in the US, I studied there, so it's quite different there. A lot of recruiting happens through recruiters there. You don't really do much of networking per se. So it was a very different atmosphere to go out and introduce yourself and get connected and things like that. So I would really encourage, like, I would first like to talk about my first experience of getting the internship. So I got the internship actually through one of Karen's initiative in the South Shore. She had this amazing initiative that she was working with few startup companies there. And she came to know about this life science company who was looking for a business development person. And I was in a unique situation because I come from hardcore science. I had no business acumen whatsoever. So MTEI was my base to understand what it takes to do business, how to literally change your mindset, because that was very different for me, because I was such a science student. I just did not have the mindset of a business person. So that's what MTEI helped me to develop. And when the opportunity came to Karen, she immediately knew that, oh, she has this one person that might be interested. So she introduced me to my first employer, Nectronics. It's a startup company in Bridgewater in the South Shore. And it was a great fit because, you know, previously I have worked for really large organizations like Johnson & Johnson, and I was looking for a change. I was looking for a role where I could see the impact right away of what I'm doing. So I was really interested in working for a life science startup company. So this perfectly fit with what I was looking for, and my background fit really well with what the employer was looking for. So it was a great match. I got the job. And what I realized in this whole process is that, I would especially talk about international students, is that you really have to understand how the startup ecosystem works here, why Karen and her colleagues really encourage you to go out and meet, and even go out on some coffee meetings and get introduced, and get to know people. The whole networking piece, I think, is really critical. And the other thing that is very important here is that you have to create your own brand. Like Karen has always talked to me about that. Like, what is your brand? Like, for example, there are 30 students in MTEI. What sets you apart from the rest of the students is very, very important, because especially in the time like what we are living right now, where a ton of layoffs are going on, it's really not a great time for hiring purposes and things like that. And if you see the market is really not good, it's crashing and stuff. And I'm not saying any of this to discourage anybody, but I'm just saying all this to encourage you to think out of the box. Like, how can you set yourself apart from the rest of the people in the class? What do you have to offer? Because that's what the employer is looking for. They're just not looking for hardcore skills. I have realized in my entire experience in Canada, they're really not looking for hardcore skills all the way. I have hardcore skills, which is my science background, but a lot of it comes from your soft skill, how you present yourself. Are you able to think on your feet? Are you able to carry a conversation? Are you proactive? I think that's something employers really appreciate, is that you're top of you're ahead in the game. You're thinking 2 steps ahead. I think that was really I get a lot of praise for that from my employers, because they always say that you're always ahead, you're always thinking about future steps and things like that. And that is my brand. And the other thing that I really worked on is that in startup culture, you're wearing a ton of hats. Even if you have been hired as a business person, you are a business dev, you are a salesperson, you are gonna be the marketing person, you're gonna do like all kinds of stuff that you just probably have not done ever in your life. Like in my case, I have never done anything other than being a bench scientist. All I did was research, really, really hardcore bench research. So I had no idea about business. I had no idea about marketing. I had no idea about sales. So of course, MTI is going to teach you, give you certain tools. But when you are in the job or looking for a job, you have to be so agile, and you have to learn very quickly and adjust, and learn fast, and also create a brand that your employer can trust you. I think the trust is the most important thing, I would say, because you're in a very small team, and maybe with like 3 to 5 people, and everybody is doing their bit, and nobody has the time to probably look over you or micromanage you, which is very frustrating. I would really encourage, don't be an environment where you're being micromanaged. like for me, it doesn't work. I like my space, and I like to work on my own thing. But to do that, your employer has to trust you that that the work that has been given to you, you're able to deliver with, you know, all honesty and on time. If there are delays, and don't be afraid. I would really, really encourage you. Something that I have learned is that if you don't know something, just say you don't know. You don't have to know everything. You're not gonna know everything. It's not possible. But it's and it is okay not to know everything. And if you don't know, just say that, hey, I don't know this, but I would figure it out. That's the thing that employers are looking. They're not looking for you to know everything, even though they don't know everything. The thing that they're looking for is trust, that you are able to learn fast, and you can figure out, you can figure out things, and you can turn things around. That's what the employers are looking for. And that became my brand. You know, that's what I wanted to be, and that became my brand, you know. And that helped me to excel tremendously in my job. I was able to gain my employer's trust, and you know, that's where the whole thing starts, is that why you become employable. Of course, your hardcore technical skills will come into play, but it's all about relationship that you're building. I would say invest some time in building that relationship. Everybody has something to offer, no matter where you work, and just be very open to learning, open to adjust, and be flexible, and just create a brand that your employer can rely on you. I think that's very critical. Yeah, I worked for Nectronics for almost a year. I completed my internship, and then after the internship, I worked for a couple of months there. And then I learned tremendously. You know, my job required me to interview these NHL and NFL players. Honestly, I did not know what is hockey. First of all, forget about NHL and NFL. I don't even know these people. But I found them out, dug them out from everywhere, and I was able to interview these massive, massive stars. And honestly, like, I think they were even thinking, why is this girl not starstruck? Because I don't know them. But it was really fun experience. And you know what I learned is that how open everybody is. If you show them that you're really working towards a big problem that can help them and rest of the community, like I was doing free interviews. They didn't know me, I didn't know them, and they were giving me their time, really, really valuable time for free. I had nothing to give them, not even a candy. So it was an amazing experience, and I was able to feel how open the community is. So don't be afraid to approach people. And if you really have a good intention in your heart, and you can show that you're working for a problem that they can benefit out of, you would be amazed how open this community is and the country is. And yeah, and you will feel more excited about the opportunity that you have been given. So that's that. So that was a totally like a roller coaster experience for me working for Nectronics. I learned a lot. Then I joined a company called Sona Nanotech. And Sona was a totally different experience altogether, because right after I joined the company, in 2 months' time, the company went public. Now, I don't know if you guys have worked for a publicly traded company. It's a totally different game altogether. Publicly traded companies have different pressure, different kind of expectations. Total different expectations now, because you're not only managing your investors, you're managing the market. How you present yourself to the market, it was totally different experience. So again, a great learning experience there. when I joined, so now my work was pretty similar to what I did with Nectronics. It was a very bottom-up approach, was trying to find customer, product market fit, how to do the marketing campaigns, and also really work very closely with the R&D team to make sure the products that we are working on are that we have in the pipeline is what the market needs. So these are like massive responsibility, big shoes that I had to fill. And honestly, trust me, I did not know anything. I did not know how to work for a startup company, very small team of 5 people. So everybody is very close knit, which was amazing. I think what was amazing to me that everybody in the team knew what they had to do, and they also knew that they don't know a lot of things. And we were very open that, hey, I don't know this. You just say it, and we were like, okay, we'll figure it out from there. And that was the thing, we figured out as we went in the journey. So that was very important. So that being said, Sona is doing very well right now. So I recently joined InnovaCorp this January 2020. So that's again a totally different ball game altogether. If you know InnovaCorp, it's a venture capital firm. It's a provincial firm focused on investing in startup companies. And I don't know. I don't know much about the VC world other than I had an excellent opportunity to participate in one of the venture capital competitions that you guys might know, VCIC. So my batch was the first cohort to go to Boston and compete there. So that was my first exposure to the VC world, and what it takes. So that was a fantastic experience, and I always had that in my head that it really excited me. So I would really like to see what else it has to offer me. So when InnovaCorp approached me for this position, Andrew, who was our professor in MTEI, he taught us corporate finance. So he approached me for the position, and I got really excited about it. I was like, wow, your dreams can come true. So that was great, because I wasn't even thinking of switching jobs. Yeah, it came my way. I gave the interview, and it was a very interesting interview because it was not a usual one, because they were asking a lot of futuristic questions. They were asking me, what do you think the world will look like in 2050, and things like that. That's a great question. You can go crazy and think about robots and being ruled by robots, those kind of answers, right? So so I would also say that not all interviews are gonna go like very classic interviews. You will find like and I would say whenever you're going in an interview, try to be very comfortable and try and go have a mindset that you're going to have a conversation rather than just a Q&A. I think that's what really helped me every single time, that I always tried to have a conversation. I would ask them questions also, rhetorically, like, oh, what do you think? Like, do you think it's going to happen? And, that sparks conversation. And that's when the human-to-human connection starts. And yeah, and that's what I did. And like, we were laughing during my interview in InnovaCorp because we all started giving our crazy wild answers, and I was asking them questions too. So it was a great experience because it was a conversation. It was just not a hardcore classic Q&A type of thing. So it was great. So I joined InnovaCorp Corp in January 2020, and learning. It's a very steep learning curve, VC world. So pretty much I'm in the other side of the table. I was helping initially companies raise money. Now I'm the person who invests in companies. So that's a very different mindset. You're in it on the different side of the table. So it's really great, again, because I get to work with really amazing companies, amazing people. And why did they hire me was really interesting and very sweet too, because not only I had my strong hardcore science background, which is great, but I worked for these startup companies. I worked for a very early stage startup company. Then I worked for a company that went public. So that's a irreplaceable experience, and you learn so much because you're in the front line doing all the work. So they hired me because I understood what it takes to build a startup company. So my job in InnovaCorp is to really help the startup company to reach their maximum potential. It's not just that, oh yeah, I give you money and then you go figure out yourself. No, no, no. I have to work with the company to ensure that they have the right tools, the right people. If they need to make connections, I can pull out my own connections and make those connections to them. It's a full package that comes from my role. So and that's just amazing. That's what I love to do. I love to work for with startup companies. It's an exciting journey, and I know and I appreciate the challenges that startup companies face. Because I was there, I did all that. So I have so that's the reason why these guys hired me. Not just because of my science background, because I worked for and I know the struggle. So that's that just has been my experience. And if I were to give you any pointers, I would say just be very open-minded and really invest time creating your brand, and because that's what you're going to be representing, and just be open to learning all the time from anybody. Yeah, that's I've been talking a lot, so I'm going to stop right now. And,
yeah, okay. Thanks, Anu. I think what we're going to try is to have some questions and answers. And what I'm going to do is I have a screen here that if you put your hand up, I'll just name you, and then you can unmute and have your question to Anu. How does that sound? So do we have any questions for Anu at this point? Max, do you have a question, or is that just?
No, he.
I have a question.
Oh, you do? Okay, Nuri?
Yeah, so Ms. Gupta, first of all, thank you very much for coming and sharing your experience. I actually remember meeting you at the InnovaCorp office when we were preparing for VCIC this January. And
yes.
yeah, I'm amazed to learn about your extensive experience, and then you were part of the startups who actually went public. And I don't know where to begin, but maybe you could share an interesting story from those startup years, like interesting and maybe exciting, like roller coaster, or the story that changed your perspective of certain things. Maybe you could share. Thank you.
Wow, I have like so many. Thank you for asking me the question. I remember you now. Yes, I did meet you. Oh man. Well, I think I would like to I would like to talk about my work in Sona then, because I think it was a very interesting time. As I said, that the company went public, and you have very different expectations. Now, when I joined Sona, they really didn't have a customer base, similar to when I was working in electronics, and we just did not have any understanding of the product market fit, and also creating a sales pipeline and things like that. So it was really interesting that right after I joined, in a month's time, not even less than a month's time, I was sent to one of the biggest conferences in North America for that particular technology that we were working on. And this conference is massive. It's like 20,000 people, massive, massive companies like Abbott, Pfizer, like all of the big names were there. And I barely knew about Sona at the time. And, they sent me to this conference, off you go. And my R&D director was supposed to come. And at the last moment, due to some emergency stuff, he couldn't come with me. And my whole idea was that I'm going to tag team with him and learn from him what he's going to say and do and things like that. So that never happened. And I was like, I was off to Chicago for the conference by myself. I didn't know a ton, and trying to find the customers. So it was a crazy experience. So how I approached the whole thing is that I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting. So I created a really, really solid list of companies that I thought would be interested in our technology. And again, these are really big players. They don't reply to your emails. So how do you get them excited about talking to you, right? So, I chased them. I really use the power of LinkedIn. LinkedIn is so powerful. I would really encourage you guys to use LinkedIn to its maximum potential. So, emails were not working. So I started reaching each one of them via LinkedIn and sending them personal messages. And my message to them was like really short, but to the line, that why they should meet me and why I'm the best person to meet. So, and it was exciting because I think I targeted around like 60 companies to meet, and I bang on met all of them. So that was great. And, you're just, I just went there and I got submerged in this massive conference, learning what everybody else is doing, And I got great leads from the conference. And I came back and, I was doing some analysis on the leads that I got, and I was creating a matrix on how I was gonna rank the leads that I've got. And by the end of it, I had a good number. Like, I think there were 16 leads that I was, bang on. I was like, these are the people who are ready to work with us for this technology and this. And it was so interesting because after that couple of months, I kept chasing these guys. But it was just so difficult. It was so difficult to get them talking again, because, they're so busy. Everybody's busy. They have their priorities. So that was a big experience because, even though you met them in conferences and they said, yeah, they're interested, they showed like a lot of interest, but it was not that easy to convert them to a potential lead and have projects with them. And so that's where the struggle began, and so that was a big learning experience. And then I had to change my strategy on how I was approaching the customers. what did we need to prepare, how far in the technology we had to be for the customers to become interested. So it was again coming together as a team and identifying what are our gaps. Gap analysis is very important, and then fixing those gaps. And then, you know, the next time when I went again to a massive conference like that, I wasn't approaching 60 companies then. My target then was 10 people. It was not about the companies. It was not at all. It was like, who is doing what? And I was more focused on relationship building rather than finding these cold leads that wouldn't turn into anything, right? So my strategy going forward was to do relationship building, and that takes time. So that means you can't see 60 companies. You can probably only meet 5 to 10 people. That's all you can meet, because everybody's busy in the conference. So that strategy worked, and that's when we started having traction. That's when, you know, I was able to build a relationship that I can follow up later after the conference, and they responded to me because they got to know me a little bit better rather than a 5 minutes rush meeting. It was a full-fledged half an hour to an hour, 40 minutes meeting. So where you got to know the person. So I think that changed, and it's a very again, these are very soft skill related things, but that made a difference, you know. So I think that was a very interesting experience for me.
I think can I just add to that too, because I do think it's a very similar strategy for internship search in terms of really being strategic on, you know, not just the companies, but who you want to talk to in the companies when you're doing your networking. And
absolutely.
I think that, you know, again, it's about that bullseye that we've talked about a lot, making sure that those people that are in that very center of your bullseye are the ones that are actually going to make a difference in terms of your efforts and your ROI. So,
absolutely.
Any other questions? Max, your hand is up again, and I don't know if it's really up or Hitesh, do you have a question?
Yeah. Yes, please. Hi, Anu. How are you doing? And thank you so much. Very well. Thank you so much for sharing your wonderful experience. So I have a question for you. What do you suggest, you know, in today's time, you know, everyone facing a lot of difficulties finding jobs and internship. So what do you suggest how to move forward in this time and, you know, to get a result? Obviously, we can only connect virtually and remote to the people with whom we want to connect, but still, you know, there is a gap. There is a gap because of this situation. So, what do you suggest? You know, how to move forward to get a results, man?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I was thinking about the same thing. I was like, oh man, how do you approach a very difficult scenario that we are facing right now? You know, I would really encourage, I know that, you know, virtual meetings are very different from in-person meeting, but I think at this time, everybody will appreciate that virtual meeting is the only possibility, and they like I would appreciate that it's okay, and both parties understand the gap, and you try to make the best out of it, right? I would really encourage that use LinkedIn. I would say even if you have to take a premium account for a month or 2 months to reach out to more contacts and things like that. LinkedIn is extremely powerful, and it has the job search, you know, the filter where they send you your like companies or positions matching your profile. So if you turn those on, then recruiters can see you that you are somebody who is looking for a job. Now, I want to say that there is a lot of layoffs going on and the market is crashing and things like that. but I also know employers who are hiring. So it's not so bad as you think it is. It's definitely tougher for startup companies, I would say, because everybody is looking to increase their runway, and the only way to increase the runway is to let go of some people. So maybe I would suggest look into a bigger company, who have, they're much more stable with their cash, and they usually have more positions open. Now, I also know some startup companies that are hiring, so it's not that bad as we think it is. I would encourage you to reach out to, again, create your bullseye, create those really solid leads that you want to work with, and reach out to them via LinkedIn. Send them an email. I know from your free account you might not have a ton of you might have a limit to how many you can send. So if you have to get an account for a month or 2 months, I would encourage you to get a premium account. And I would also encourage you to, contact recruiters as well, because there are a bunch of recruiters in LinkedIn who are very active and are always looking for talents. So, and I would also encourage you to work on your profile, in your LinkedIn profile. Like, create whatever brand you are creating for yourself. Have LinkedIn reflect that. Show that you are just not a robot with who knows all the tech. Tech is great. Your hardcore sales skills are great, but I would really encourage you, for example, if you are going for a business or sales position, you should be more talking about, I work for XYZ companies for XYZ number of years. These were the projects I was working on, and while my contribution to the company was that I helped the company to raise X number of dollars, X million dollars, or X $1,000. So that's so it's make your profile not task oriented, but more result oriented. Okay, if that makes sense. Like, don't start writing about your responsibility. Sure, it's not that attractive. Talk about what you have achieved through that. Through those responsibilities is what you need to focus, and also talk about your own brand, like how are you with your customers, and also take an opportunity and talk about your interests. Like, a lot of people asked about my interests, like, which have nothing to do with my job. So you can talk about what interests you, or interesting book you would have read, or somebody you follow, like probably you follow Bill Gates, and why do you follow him, things like that. So it's just creating your brand. And because right now it's the need for virtual connection is so much more important, you have to be able to reflect that through a platform, and I think you could do it with LinkedIn. So I would say work on that, and I would really also encourage you to reach out to your alumni. I'm sure a lot of you know someone or the other, like you guys know me now. You can always reach out to me or the other people that you are connected from the previous batches, and talk to them and see if they have any openings in the company that they are working on, and they are a warm lead for you. They can put you in connection to the HR people if they see a fit. So use the resources that you have. You have to be creative right now, just for the circumstances we are in. We just have to be more creative, and you have to take the initiative and approach.
Okay, thank you. Any, I think, you know, one of the themes that comes out of that conversation too is and you've said it all along, is really the importance of your brand, and more than ever, being able to identify that and have it sort of apparent through everything you do is more important than ever, so that you can get in front of these people, and especially with recruiters, because when you think about recruiters, they are seeing so many people in the run of a day. So anything that you can do that distinguishes yourself and makes you unique in their eyes is really, really, really helpful. Any more questions? We probably have the time for maybe one more before we get Isak on. Is that okay, Tim? Tim, hello? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Any more questions? Take advantage of this situation, this opportunity. Okay, well, I think, oh, no, Max, you don't have a question, right? Your hand keeps going up, but I'm thinking you don't. Okay. Okay, I think we're good. Anu, thank you so much. Is it okay to share your contact information with everyone, or get them to link up with you on LinkedIn? I suppose that's probably the best way to.
Yeah. Please feel free to reach out to me via LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to speak with anybody who's interested. These are very tough times, so anything I could help, feel free. Okay.
Thanks, Anu.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Anu. Thank you.
Thank you, Anu.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.